So as you just saw, that was the nasty gas I just dumped out of the fuel tank. The gas tank sending unit does work on this car. I was moving it around and it works just fine. Move the arm a little bit and the gauge drops off as I moved it down. As I move it, it moves, and it seems to work through, quite a few places where I put it. The sending unit cleans up nice, and it seems to work perfect. I'm going to try and reuse it. I'm going to see if I have a... Yeah, that's kind of beat up. I mean, I could probably get some brass and solder it up, but I'm going to see if I have a new float or a good used float on another sending unit. But all this is the original stuff to the car. Do the numbers show up on there? It says C6MF-9275E, and then there's a letter S to the right of the sending unit and a Fomoco to the left of it. And then there's a little D6 right there. But yeah, I don't know why this wouldn't be a good sending unit still, so we'll see if I can find one of these. I'm not mad about reproductions. They just generally never tend to read correctly, so I'd like to try and stay with the original if I can. Yeah, I gave the sending unit a quick disassemble just to make sure there was no media in there. Oh, how clean this thing is. There's no reason why this sending unit won't work properly, so we'll reuse it, like I say, if I can find a float. Okay, we got the new ignition switch in the dash, and when you turn this one to start, every time that light comes on without fail. And in park or neutral, it doesn't matter. So we should have a engine that cranks with the key now. And let's go try it. Let's put that wire on the solenoid and see what happens. So I just went and put the wire on the solenoid, and it cranks, and the oil pressure light goes out cranking too. So every time I turn that key, it cranks. And obviously it's got oil pressure. It's lights out and it takes a moment for it to come back on. So if I hook up the coil, I bet it has spark. We get some fuel to it, it'll probably crank up, but it has no exhaust. So I'm going to finish working on the underneath. I'll do some more work on that today. There we go. After 43 years, finally can crank the engine. That's the wire I had the test light on. It's red with a, looks like a blue tracer, light blue tracer. So that must be the resistor bypass. So when you're cranking, it feeds back through this to bypass the resistor. So you get cranking voltage should usually around 10 volts roughly, and the resistor runs around 9-10 volts. So that way you keep if you're cranking with the resistor, you'd have probably about 4 or 5 volts, and it might not have a hot enough spark to start. So they bypass it while it's cranking so you get a better spark. Yeah, I have not put that wire on the coil. That's what gives the coil power. So it has spark. That wire's just laying there, so that's why when I was cranking it I knew it wouldn't have spark. But if I put that wire on, it would spark. But I'm going to I'll rebuild the carburetor and get it all done first. There's no doubt in my mind it would have spark. I mean, it should. The points are clean, they're gapped, everything's all good, so gets power there, so we should have spark when I go to fire it up. So I picked up a couple new carriage bolts for the gas tank straps. I got new studs for these are the old ones, new ones, studs for the exhaust manifolds. One of the wheel studs is broken on one of the rear axles, so I picked one of them up. I got some of these style clamps, so it looks a little more original to, when I put the fuel hose on the car. The strainer on the gas tank, it was so nasty. Yeah, it was not savable. It was just full of nasty, like, goo, so I ordered a new one. I didn't have one. I thought I did, but I did have a float. It's a little longer than the original. This is the original float, but I don't think that'll make a hill of beans a difference, really. I mean, yeah, it might. People might think it might float higher, but I don't think it will. And it's going to be a heavier float than this, so it'll probably float the same in the tank as this float. I don't think it'll make any significant difference in the fuel gauge reading. But this was off a sending unit, old used sending unit for the 59 Bel Air. And I think it'll easily replace this float. And what else did I get? Oh, I got brake fluid. Ordered a new seal for the sending unit. I think I have the O-rings for the filler neck. I'll have to dig around and find them. I also picked up this socket set. I needed an 1 3/8. It's a 3/4 drive. I have half to 3/4 adapters. Somewhere around I have an old 3/4 impact gun, but it's put away. I just never use 3/4 drive anymore. I don't work on heavy duty vehicles that much, so I just don't have a need for them. But anyway, I couldn't find anything. I'll show you why I needed this socket. This set has from 1 inch to 1.5 inches. It's this is the size I needed, and I'll show you what. See that nut right there? This is the filler plug for the differential. And these older 60s cars did not have a fill plug over here on the pig. So you have no choice but to fill them from here. And I tried everything I could to get that plug out. I didn't have a wrench that size, but I had a huge crescent wrench. And I pulled and tugged and beat that crescent wrench with a hammer, and I don't want to round that off. So that's why I got this. It's an 1 3/8. And we're going to get that puppy off because I want to get the gear lube out of there, and I want to have a look at it, see what kind of condition it's in, so I can determine whether I'm going to pull the axles in the pig. And I don't think I'm going to if the gear lube looks okay. In this area, I think the gear lube will be like black as tar, you know, really black gear oil that they use then in this area. So if it's non-limited slip, which this does not have limited slip. So at least now I can get that plug out and have a look at the gear oil. And I got the rear brake drums turned. They just needed a quick cleanup. I don't even think he took, you can see, I don't even think he took a 64th. It was just very little he had to take off to clean them up. I mean, it was just like one finished cut. New set of rear coil springs. I don't have shocks, so I guess I'm going to have to start looking for shock absorbers for this car. I thought I might have had a set up at my dad's, but I don't. So I want to get some old oil-filled hydraulic shocks. I don't want to get gas ones. So I'll just have to look around and see if I can find an old set somewhere that are brand new. That rubber flap down in there I got brand new. Oh, and I put new belts on it too. That was another thing I did just when I was horsing around one day. So what I'm going to do also is I'm going to cut that clamp and get this bit of fuel hose off. Actually, I'll probably do that after. I'm going to put this into a bottle or a jug, gallon jug. I'm going to blow some lacquer thinner through the fuel line to clean it all out, and then just blow straight compressed air through it. Then I'm going to cut that clamp and put a new hose on there to the fuel pump. So when the tank goes back in, I can hook it up and put gas in it, and then we'll have gas to the engine. Hopefully by then I'll have everything painted up and the exhaust system on, and we can get it going. Oh, and I put that on too. And I want to fix this rust out in here before I put the fuel tank back in, so that'll be this weekend's project, I think. I'm hoping to get all this sanded out maybe tomorrow and Thursday, maybe Friday, get some primer on the parts that are like the frame, control arms. I'm going to put rusty metal primer on it. And I'm going to put that same primer on the pig, because then I can mask the primer off, or the pig off, when I paint, and leave that in primer. That Rust-Oleum rusty metal primer won't rust through that cast iron on there. And then I scraped all the seam sealer out from all the joints. So I got to re-seam seal everything. I'm not going to do anything in this corner here because I got to do some body repair there, and I'll tackle that after this is done. The exhaust is on and the car's running immovable. Oh, my big long ratchet. That's a big ratchet that I have there, and a lot of muscle. I got the plug out, and I think we're going to be pulling the axles in the pig. I don't think there's any getting around it. It is nasty in there. I don't know if this shows in there or not, but there is just a little bit of gear oil, and the gear oil is down to probably about here, and it's just nasty looking in there. So I'm going to pull the shafts, pull the pig, and may send it out to DTS and have them go through it. That was money I didn't want to spend, but I don't think we have a choice here. I don't know if I can let me see if I can get the camera in there enough to where maybe I can see better even. I mean, you can't even see the gear oil down in there probably with the camera. Some of the threads don't look too pretty, so we might have to put some heat on them, but we'll find out what happens. I'll put new bearings in, as long as the seal is part of the bearing. They're sealed bearings that are pressed onto the shaft. The bearing does not run on the shaft with a separate seal on these cars. It's actually pressed on with the seal part of the bearing. It's a sealed bearing with grease in it. And then there's a little retainer that's pressed on that holds that on. So you take out these 4 nuts and you can pull a shaft with a slide hammer. And then I can take the backing plates off and bead blast them and paint them and make them look pretty. And then I can get in here and pretty this stuff back up in here a little nicer and get it all painted up. And got to find a set of shocks so I can put the springs in. But anyway, I'll get the shafts out, and then we'll get that big hunkin' carrier out of the differential. I guess that's called a carrier, not a pig. Some people call it a pig, some people call it a pumpkin. They have a lot of different names, but I call them a pig. Alright, so the first thing, I put this hole in the axle shaft so you can get to those nuts, and this one's turning, so I don't know how many are going to turn. I put penetrant on them, and I really don't want to snap them because they're a special kind of bolt, and I think I'm going to turn this one back in a little bit. It's turning fairly easy, but I don't want to take a chance on damaging them. So we're going to give them a little extra penetrant. I think I might just go get some regular motor oil to put on them too. Motor oil works really good when they're turning. Well, one down. They're not really that tight, surprisingly. You know, I think the reason why that plug didn't come out with ease, why it was such a bear to get out, was I think lack of maintenance. I don't think that gear oil had ever been checked, let alone changed, since the car rolled off the assembly line in the end of April 1966. So I think that is why we're having to do what we're doing. Surprising. It's usually that last one though, hopefully not. Yeah, they're coming off. Wow. This one kind of looked messed up too. I think I'm going to put a little extra oil in it. I just don't want to break these. I'll put a little oil on it, run it back in, put some oil on it, run it back out. And I am using 6-point socket. I don't want to round the nut heads on these. So if you have a leaking axle shaft seal on your Ford 9-inch or a bad axle shaft bearing, you don't need to replace the axle shaft, and you don't need to tear any of the differential apart to change the, get this apart. You got to take this out to get to the diff out of the housing. I'm surprised. Wow. Yeah. Came out. Alright, so let me go get the slide hammer and we'll pop that puppy off. Alright, to get the axle out, just use a, actually I think I'll put the lug nuts on the correct way because that's a pretty tight fit there. I should put some oil on these studs, they're kind of rusty and rough, just to make the nuts thread on and off easier. There I go, I put oil on it and then I can't start it. You wouldn't read about it, would you? Might have to go get a socket to tighten these up, so let me do that too. And we'll get the shaft out. Alright, got those tightened down. Put my slide hammer in there. I just thread it in enough so it doesn't pull the threads out. There, you can kind of see what it is. There's one axle shaft. Look at all that sludgy buildup on there. Yeah, that's not good. So, and there's the bearing. And that retainer I was talking about, and the seal is, sorry, I'm pointing things out and the camera isn't even looking at it. So this is the bearing, the seal is right there, and the retainer. So this, I'll just take an air chisel or hammer and chisel and knock that retainer off and push this off, and then I'll press a new bearing on. So there's the axle shaft, and there's the backing plate down to the bare diff here. So let me I'll get the parking brake cable out of here so I can throw those in the bead blast cabinet. Alright, I'll go pull the other side, mirror image. I'm not going to video it. Yeah, not a lot of oil in there. I mean, there's a little bit more because there's a lip on that gear case, or on that housing that I still got one knot on the very top, so I didn't want the unit to fall out, but I'm going to let that drip out, and then I'm going to put it on my trans jack and pull it out, because that thing probably weighs 50 or 75 pounds anyway. Pretty nasty, huh? Yeah, it's all out. That's going to be a total joy to clean. Yeah, we're really looking forward to cleaning the inside of that out. Well, here it is, apart. And it's actually, the gears and everything are in nice shape on it. Well, let me move the light so you can kind of see what. Yeah, so it just, and it turns smooth and the gears look good. So I'm going to take it in and I'm going to take it to drivetrain specialist. That's where I know how to do these. I just don't have the special tools to set them up. But yeah, I'm getting dirt on the teeth from the drain pan from the bottom, the crud in the bottom of the drain pan, so I'm not going to turn it anymore. But you kind of get the picture. It's somebody, you know, all the sludge is from not changing the gear oil. I imagine that's the original gear oil from the assembly line, and it was low too. So I think I'll take it in and have them put all new bearings in it and reseal it. And this is the original pig to the car. It's date coded, so I'm trying to do this with nasty hands, but it's 6D21, which would be April 21st, 1966. So this car, that's the original pig to this car, and yeah. Alright, I guess I'm going to throw this in the back of the truck and I'll show you where I'm going to take it tomorrow. So if you're local and you want to know a good place to get differentials done or drive shafts balanced or anything, they're really good, and their prices aren't too out of the sight. I've had, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 diffs done at the place. I should just buy the tools. I could have probably paid them off by now, but I don't do enough differentials to where, you know, it would warrant spending the money on the tools to set them up. Well, this video was over a few days, so if I've repeated myself in it, I'm, you know, sorry for doing that. And I just wanted to get the diff carrier out so I could get it off to get it gone through ASAP. You know, I just want to get that, and I get the painting done, and you know, I can start putting the exhaust on. Before I put the tank in though, I'm going to fix that gas, or the gas store where the gas filler neck goes, and I'm going to have all the undercarriage painted, and I think I'll, you know, before the tank goes in, that's all going to new springs and shocks, and so it's, you know, a fair amount of work. So it might be 2 weeks before we get that puppy lit up and the car moving under its own power. So that's it for today. I'm calling it a day. If you like the video, hit the like button, and the like button helps because when you hit it, it makes the video more pop up, and as more people, you know, in their searches, the more likes they get, and then it gets more views, and I get paid by views, not subscribers. So the more views I get, the more money I make that I can put into this car. So usually about the 23rd or so I get my payment, direct deposit from Google, and hopefully that'll pay for the direct deposit, will pay for this diff, I'm hoping. And so every time you hit the like button and I get more views, you're helping to restore this Galaxie financially. So hit the like button if you like the video. If you want to see this cool Galaxie convertible resurrected, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.